Check 1, 2. Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning, and we have a lot to cover this morning. We have updates on the wildfire. We're also going to be talking about New York State issues. Quite a few things here about Trump as some of his nominees are up for the confirmation hearings that begin today. We'll be talking about that as well. But let's first start with a comment right at the tail end of Friday's show. I just missed this comment coming in right about a minute before we were off the air. I hope that Trump's ego or desire to be liked doesn't cloud his judgment with some of these, quote, visitors. He can't afford to be wrong again and be fooled by some. I don't have amnesia. I remember Fetterman, for one. Speaking of Fetterman, and that is a good point, I don't think it is a desire to be liked. I don't really see him having that necessarily. I mean, he likes the attention. His ego definitely plays to popularity. But I don't think that's why he's meeting people like Fetterman. They have a really interesting piece at the Wall Street Journal that came out on Saturday saying John Fetterman, a Democrat who could talk Trump or a reckless maverick. You ever notice that when it's someone that disagrees with the Democrat Party, that's a Democrat, it's a reckless maverick? But if it's a Republican, bad-mouthing Republicans, as in John McCain, just considered a maverick, and it's a positive. In an interview, Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman says the party needs to be part of the conversation, not get freaked out. If somebody is shocked or freaked out that I'm going to take a conversation with the president, I'd like to remind you that I'm not just for Democrats. I'm for everyone. Most Pennsylvanians chose Donald Trump as our next president. It's a very interesting point. It's like our phasers are set at freak out, he said of the Democrats. You have a right to react any way you want, but I'm not that guy. And I'm here to have conversations with our nominees and look for the ways we could possibly be a part of the dialogue. Now, on Thursday alone, Fetterman met with 3 Trump selections, including Bondi, as well as Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem. We can't weaponize our judicial system for political gain, which both sides have engaged in. Our collective trust in the system has already suffered, he said in this interview. So I understand your point. Just concerned are you concerned with some of the people that Trump is meeting with? Are you concerned about maybe a Musk or, some of these people that were in the past maybe more aligned with Democrats? It's a fair conversation to have, so thank you for that comment. All right, let's talk about the fires. The Palisade fire likely started near the remnants of a blaze believed to have been sparked by New Year's Eve fireworks. The Palisades fire that has devastated Los Angeles may have reignited, let me try that again, from scorch marks left by an early inferno that is believed to have been caused by fireworks set off on New Year's Eve. The remnants of the New Year's Eve fire likely could have been reignited by strong winds, which have made the current blazes difficult to control. Even 6 days after it was put out, the Washington Post is reporting. An analysis of satellite images, radio communications, videos, as well as interviews by the publication found the deadly Palisades fire began in the same area where firefighters had put out the previous fire, and the firefighters were slow to respond to the second blaze, which quickly became one of the most destructive in California's history. Now, there's a lot of people that are now critical or criticizing Mayor Bass. The media has still tried to protect Governor Gavin Newsom. They know that he is a front runner or was a front runner in the Democratic race for president, in the Democrat Party's race for president in 2028. And we're going to talk about him. We're going to talk about Bass. First off, be mindful of this. Law enforcement officials are warning the public of new scams looking to take advantage of wildfire victims and relief donors now circulating online. Quote, "We have people with big hearts who want to help. They want to donate. They want to support the victims. We also see scammers who are taking advantage of that goodness and that generosity and scamming and defrauding those individuals," said California Attorney General Robert Bonta. Tasteless scam artists have set up fraudulent GoFundMe profiles impersonating charities or supposed victims of the wildfire, as well as new scam robocalls. Officials advise that anyone interested in donating to the relief should research the organization or group in advance and make sure it isn't fake. Anyone who is scammed should contact local police to investigate the theft. Now, Mayor Karen Bass, it is now being reported that she promised before she was elected that she would not go abroad. She would not travel internationally. Kind of a weird campaign promise, but that's what was said. And of course, she was caught in Ghana when the fires erupted. Just a year before she took office, Mayor Bass pledged to the New York Times that if elected, quote, "Not only would I, of course, live here in Los Angeles, but I would also not travel internationally. The only places I would go would be D.C., Sacramento, San Francisco, and New York in relations to L.A." The former Congresswoman was addressing questions about her previous globetrotting as a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee at the time. But Bass has since broken that promise at least 5 times this year alone. Now, I'm assuming that doesn't mean 2025. I'm guessing they mean in a calendar year or in a year. And as I mentioned, she was in Africa, specifically for Ghana's presidential inauguration as the devastating wildfires broke out. She has not done a good job of answering to that criticism of her being away during the beginning of the fire. Bass went to Africa to ring in the inauguration of Ghana's 14th president. I'm going to try here. John Dramani Mahama, 4 days before the wildfires began. Before that, while mayor, she had gone to Mexico for the inauguration of President Claudia Sheinbaum and 3 times to France for the 2024 Olympic Games in Paris. Rivals and constituents across the aisle have levied heavy criticism against the mayor for going abroad. Even liberal Los Angeles residents have been outraged that their Democratic mayor, as they are grappling with the deadly, devastating blazes, it says here that even they have been critical of the Democratic mayor. Conservatives are calling for her resignation, along with the resignation of Governor Gavin Newsom. Firefighters who endorsed her opponent, Rick Caruso, during the 2022 mayoral race have accused Bass of cutting their budget, hampering their blaze fighting efforts. Even the city's fire chief told a reporter last week that she believed the Los Angeles Fire Department had been failed by the city's leadership. Quote, my message is the fire department needs to be properly funded. It is not, said LAFD Chief Kristen Crowley. As the fires continue to rage, many are questioning how Bass will be able to effectively serve in her position going forward after losing the people's trust. A Republican political consultant who was an aide to former Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger said, I think being out of state and not at her post when the crisis broke out is fairly devastating for her. This is the biggest disaster in Los Angeles since the Watts riots. You have one job as mayor. It's to be here and to be leading. That wasn't unpredictable. This wasn't unpredictable like an earthquake. Since her return, Bass has continuously pushed her constituents to reject those who seek to divide us. She even made another promise to have, quote, a full accounting of what worked and especially what did not. She claimed that she was continuously in contact with people in the state almost every hour of the flight while she was en route back from Ghana. She went to the Pacific Palisades fire-ravaged region as soon as she landed, she added. But even some celebrities are very critical of her. Some are not. Some are suggesting that if you are critical of Mayor Karen Bass, if you were part of this backlash at the job that she's been doing or not doing, or if you're upset about the drastic cuts she made to the fire department, that means you are criticizing her on the guise of race or sexism. Two LA-based actresses claimed and battled Mayor Karen Bass is only facing backlash because of her race, instead of forcing drastic cuts to the fire department and being out of the U.S. when the wildfires began. Act Your Age co-star Yvette Nicole Brown and Kim Whitley defended Bass. She's got a spine of steel, and she's been a black woman in America for a long time, Brown said. None of this is new. We have fires every year, and I don't remember in the almost 30 years that I've lived in LA, I've never seen everybody react like this to the mayor and blame one person for a natural disaster. So what is different this time? She questioned. The enraged community alum says that she was standing up for Bass because she was tired of watching the 71-year-old mayor be the lone scapegoat for the deadly blazes, despite the fires decimating several cities in the area. Quote, she is also not the mayor of every municipality in California. There are people mad because she didn't fix the fires in Malibu. She's not the mayor of Malibu. What is she supposed to do in a city she's not mayor of? Whitley was forced to evacuate her home with her son when the fire threatened her neighborhood. The actresses insisted Bass was heartbroken to watch a city that she loves get destroyed by the fires. Stand behind her, support her, because you can see it in her face. She stays calm. Think about this. She has a city to take care of. She doesn't have time to hear what these reports are saying. This is not the time to blame. It's time to get some resources. She has reached out far. We have planes coming in from other countries to help us. All right. But the Daily Mail out of the United Kingdom asks, has Karen Bass become LA's most hated woman? Tears turn to anger as the mayor is blasted by her own fire chief for the $17 million funding cut, while Khloe Kardashian begins the war of words and Spencer Pratt says he'll sue. We're going to talk about that when we come back. Keep the comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What?
I can't drive.
Why? My. Oh.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life. that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history making.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact Boss Security for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Sounds like the Globetrotter, meaning Mayor Bass, took lessons from Clinton, who claimed she would finish her 6-year term before she was elected in New York State. Good point. And good morning. And good morning to you as well. So Karen Bass, has she become LA's most hated woman? They are suggesting that she failed the fire crews and the community. Fire Chief Kristen Crowley took aim at the mayor. We are screaming to be properly funded to make sure that our firefighters can do their job so that we can serve the community. Crowley added that there was huge gaps in firefighters' ability to tackle the blazes on the ground. She joins a chorus of high-profile celebrities who have hit out at the city's handling of the ongoing wildfires. That includes reality star Khloe Kardashian, who rallied around Crowley to share her furious response at the mayor's decision to cut around $17.5 million. Yeah, $17.5 million from the fire department budget for the fiscal year. There was talks of a lot of that money going to the homeless population, which obviously there is a major homeless population in LA, but they had said at the time that that money was not used for that purpose, that it was just sitting there instead of going to the fire department. During an interview with Gigi Grassetti, Crowley stated that the mayor's budget cuts for the LAFD affected the fire fight throughout Southern California, adding that the department had not properly been funded. Reacting to her statement on Instagram, Khloe said she stood behind the fire chief before dubbing Mayor Bass a, quote, joke. I don't know who some of these celebrities are. But you see some pushing back and suggesting that Bass has this lack of leadership. And then you have others that are defending her as well, as is, you know, if you're a celebrity and you're on the far left, it is very difficult to come out against your own party. But Khloe Kardashian saying you spoke the truth and you had tears in your eyes because I could tell you didn't want to say that, but it was the truth. Thank you for being honest, Crowley. Mayor Bass, you are a joke. Governor Newsom also in the spotlight. He slammed yesterday, he did some interviews, you know, remember, he's going to run for president, or was anyway. So the media has been not as quick to criticize him. So he was on Meet the Press that he recorded it Saturday, it played Sunday, saying that mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. This was in criticism to what President-elect Donald Trump had been saying. Trump wrote, Governor Gavin Newsom refused to sign the water restoration declaration put before him that would have allowed millions of gallons of water from excess rain and snowmelt from the north to flow daily into many parts of California, including the areas that are currently burning in a virtually apocalyptic way. We've told you about this. So Newsom said, responding to Donald Trump's insults, we would spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official that he disagrees with is very familiar with them. He added that Trump was, quote, somehow connecting the Delta smelt to this fire, which is inexcusable because it's inaccurate. Also incomprehensible to anyone that understands water policy in the state. On Friday, Newsom wrote a letter to Trump saying, I invite you to come to California again to meet with the Americans affected by these fires, see the devastation firsthand, and join me and others in thanking the heroic firefighters and first responders who are putting their lives on the line. He said he had not received a response to that letter as of yet. Trump also said that Newsom also said that Trump's politicizing the wildfires is incomprehensible and that it is threatening our first responders. He said, when asked by reporter Jacob Subroff if President-elect Trump has blamed you for this crisis, he called you incompetent. What's your response? It's a hard-hitting question. Newsom said, well, I called for him to come out, take a look for himself. We want to do it in the spirit of an open hand, not a closed fist. He's the president-elect. I respect the office. We have a president of the United States that within 36 hours provided a major disaster declaration over a text. We had support from the President of the United States, Joe Biden, with 100% reimbursement, all the resources you could hope for. Imagine constant communications. I'd like to extend that to the president-elect. I don't know what he's referring to when he talks about the Delta smelt and reservoirs. The reservoirs are completely full. The state reservoirs here in Southern California. The mis and disinformation, I don't think advantages or aids any of us. Responding to Donald Trump's insults, we could spend another month. I'm very familiar with them. Every elected official he disagrees with is very familiar with them. That was not a state system reservoir that the president-elect was referring to as it relates to the Delta, and somehow connecting the Delta smelt with a fire, which is inexcusable because it's inaccurate. Also incomprehensible to anyone who understands water policy in the state. So he's trying to weasel out of blame with this reservoir claim. He said that the reservoirs were completely full when the LA fires broke out, even though a county-run reservoir has been drained at the time. Reporter Jacob Seberoff pressed Newsom on his response by pointing out how the LA County-run Santa Ynez Reservoir was bone dry, something that even has prompted a probe from Newsom himself. That's exactly what triggered my desire to get that investigation, understand what was happening with that local reservoir, Newsom said. This was not a state system reservoir, which the president-elect was referring to as it relates to the Delta smelt. I don't want to keep going into that. But there's pictures of the reservoir completely bone dry. Again, it's amazing to me that Newsom, and not really being called out on this, as someone who wants to run for president, isn't it fascinating how he has blamed everybody other than himself? It's been the county, it's been the local officials. The buck stops at everyone else other than Gavin Newsom. Also, I'm running a little late. So we know all about the fires. Newsom, amid criticism of his handling of the fires, unveiled a new website to combat misinformation on California fire prevention and emergency efforts. On that website that he is now promoting, it linked to a website that raises donations through Act Blue. Act Blue is the Democrat fundraising platform that Kamala Harris was using. A lot of misinformation out there. Just launched a new site to ensure the public has access to fact-based data around the Southern California wildfires. The truth, California did not cut our firefighter budget. We have nearly double the size of our firefighting army and built the world's largest aerial fire fleet. California has increased force management tenfold since we took office. California will not allow for looting. Get the facts, CaliforniaFireFacts.com, the Post concluded. CaliforniaFireFacts.com lists a handful of lies promoted on social media by the media, and Newsom's facts respond to the claim before touting a donation button at the bottom of the website. Contribute to the California Fire Foundation. The website says, identifying the fundraising effort as part of Act Blue, which will deliver donations to firefighters and devastated communities. Again, Act Blue is a Democrat fundraising platform. Odd time for that. Oh, wow, look at all these comments coming in. And waves. Keep them coming in. We're going to read them when we come back. But Governor Newsom also suspended rebuilding regulations after the wildfire devastation. The 3-page executive order signed by the governor this week or last week would aim to streamline the building permit process as well as roll back environmental regulations that would subject rebuilding to layers of time-consuming bureaucracy. The order covers all of Los Angeles and Ventura counties, both of which have been affected by the wildfires, which have been estimated to be the costliest in California history. The order is likely to be the first of several permit streamlining measures issued by the state, county, and city agencies in the wake of the devastating fires across greater Los Angeles. We're going to talk a little bit more about this. Who do you think deserves more blame? If you listen to Gavin Newsom, everybody deserves blame but him. Now, the counties, the locals, Mayor Bass, not really able to answer many of the questions that have been put before her. We're not going to talk just about the wildfires all morning. We have a lot to talk about when it comes to New York State issues. We also have some Trump updates, some Biden updates. J.D. Vance was on Fox News Sunday. We're going to talk about that as well. And, well, much more. How about that? And we're going to read your comments when we come back. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
You know, William, with the name Camille growing up, I had a lot of nicknames. Camille Schmiel, Cammy, Camera, Cam Cam.
Oh, I remember. Cam on the Lamb.
Chameleon.
Charles.
That was a weird one. Did you have any nicknames? Bill.
Bill.
Yeah, I guess that's it.
The freedom to live in safety. That's an American dream.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost and lonely. I had snapped, I had a gun, and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still life to live. For the better of myself, my family, my weapon is now safely put away.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me in ways that I never knew that I could be broken. And I contemplated suicide. Afterwards, we found out his girlfriend, she was pregnant. If that was my grandson, I was gonna have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone.
Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. The thing that angers and frustrates me is Biden says government will fund wildfire victims 100%, but completely forgot about flood and hurricane victims. That's a very good point. Very not always quick to offer that government funding and calling natural disasters and the like. Now another comment from a different viewer. Good morning. Well, hey, good morning. During an interview this morning on ABC, CBS, the mayor, Bass, was the only one laughing about the guy dressed as a firefighter that burglarized a home. She's really heartfelt. That's a good point. I didn't realize she laughed at that. If you didn't hear the story, there was someone dressed as a firefighter that was actually just looting and burglarizing homes. Next up, regarding the $17 million that was denied to the fire department and instead giving to the homeless, California should be blaming those responsible for allowing it to become a sanctuary state. Good point. Thank you very much. LAFD's $300,000 per year diversity chief sparks fury for defending DEI by blaming the victim. As Los Angeles battles its worst fire in history, fire department's highly paid diversity head is facing an inferno of backlash after a bizarre comment surfaced in which he appears to be defending DEI hiring by blaming victims. Now, this is a very big money-making program, these DEI initiatives. We've seen major corporations now back away from them because, of course, they cause more division. But in a video defending the department's DEI hiring practices, Deputy Chief Christine Larson, who heads the Equity and Human Resources Bureau, addressed accusations that female firefighters aren't strong enough to carry a man out of a burning building. Her response? He got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire. Oof. The video went viral on social media after the fire department was caught off guard and ill-prepared when an outbreak of wildfires began to tear through the Pacific Palisades. Think of that. $300,000 a year. for diversity in the fire department to push these DEI initiatives, and then blaming the victim. Now, the early cost estimates on the wildfires are $135 billion to $150 billion, which would top the damage from any hurricane to hit the U.S. except for Katrina. Critics argue that LAFD had been too preoccupied with DEI vanity projects to properly staff and equip its firefighters. Projects that Larson was paid $307,000 to manage back in 2023. Los Angeles Fire Department Assistant Chief Christine Larson says that when people's houses are burning down, they want a firefighter to show up who looks like them. Hot take. People just want someone to show up who will stop the house from burning down, wrote Colin Rugg. It sounds like parody, meaning this video. People are dying and losing their homes right now because of people like this, one person commented. Now, Democrat Senator Ed Markey has claimed that Los Angeles fires are the result of climate change disaster that was stoked by President-elect Donald Trump's embrace of big oil, and there's more deaths coming as a result. So yes, this is President-elect Donald Trump's fault. So it begins. He's not even sworn into office yet. No criticism here for Bass or for Gavin Newsom. Quote, Trump has been bought for $1 billion by big oil. Just a payoff to kill the IRA and the Green New Deal. We know that this will happen. More fires, more climate disaster, more death. The LA fires are a preview of coming atrocities. Again, that's coming from Democrat Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey. Republicans say that we can't afford a Green New Deal. What we really can't afford is to sacrifice our lives, homes, and communities in fires fueled by the climate crisis. We need a system change, not climate change. Now, as I had mentioned earlier, it is being reported. They believe that the fires started, at least the Palisades fire started from fireworks on New Year's Eve. But many have took to blaming Trump or blaming global warming for these wildfires. We talked about it on last week's program as well. So now we know it is President-elect Donald Trump's fault. And that the climate disasters are stoked by Trump and more deaths are coming, again, according to Democrat Massachusetts Senator Ed Markey. Now, this is odd, though I've heard people anecdotally talking about this, so I guess it's not a surprise, but Luigi Mangione, the alleged murderer of that healthcare, I can't remember what the official, United Healthcare, that's who it was, Chief Executive Brian Thompson. Well, the name Luigi Mangione has come up often over the past few days in social media users' discussion of the fires ravaging Southern California. Why? Well, many are angered by insurance companies' decisions last summer to cancel hundreds of homeowners' policies in some of the neighborhoods that are now devastated by the blazes. And you can understand why some of these insurance companies perhaps cancel if you knew that their budget, the fire department's budget, was going to be cut by, I'm not justifying it, but I'm saying being cut by $17 million. They are looking at the 26-year-old as the type of avenger they wish would punish insurance companies that have cut coverage across the state. This is horrific. This is coming from Newsweek, by the way. Mangione, whose appearance has been lionized on social media, has been made into something of a questionable folk hero, with people online hailing him as a symbol of justified violence against the perceived predatory behavior of insurance companies. His research, and we saw that when he was first brought to trial, first brought to the jail, where people actually had supporting signs for him, dressed up as Luigi, the character from Mario's video game, and again, having signs that were praising the alleged murderer, Luigi Mangione. His resurfacing now in the context of the widespread outrage that reports of insurance cancellations and non-renewals in California have sparked online, it would suggest that the U.S. property insurance sector might soon become the subject of heated public debate. Several major insurers operating in California have cut coverage since 2022, especially in the most at-risk zones. I'm not going to name specific companies here, but again, people, listen, this is one tweet from an ex-user. People are left without means to rebuild or any access to financial support. I understand Luigi Mangione now. Wow. Palisades and other homeowners must seek the Luigi Mangione way, said one ex-user. The fires in the Los Angeles area are devastating. We still don't know the full magnitude of destruction, specifically loss of life and property, and it'll be some time before we know the full context, said Dr. Julian Krisker. With the understandable confusion and anxiety people are experiencing, many users are spending time on social media to share or gather information and comment on the fires. While Mangione has remained a consistent figure in memes and other viral content, in recent days, his image has been associated with user messaging about the fire. Mangione has become a figurehead in online discourse about insurance companies, which is now extended from the context of healthcare to home and renter insurance. Some California residents have had trouble getting insurance coverage in recent years, and many of those living in fire-prone areas have limited to no options. Users on platforms like X have been commenting on this state of affairs, and the most common theme of these posts have expressed anger against insurance companies and their practices in California. Mangione's image has been a constant visual form of communication, or of communicating that message. Okay, enough. That's terrifying that has become essentially acceptable or encouraged in some way. Wow, look at all these waves. You guys are active on this beautiful Monday morning. Thank you so much for all the waves. Some more comments. When we come back, we're going to change it up for just a little bit, talk about some New York State issues. Then we've got to get into Trump. You may have seen that Jack Smith resigned from the DOJ. Also, yesterday, FBI Director Christopher Wray explained that he was resigning as well. We're going to talk about that. We also have a little bit here about Trump and his confirmation. That's kind of the breaking news, that this week begins the confirmation hearings on his nominees. So we'll be talking about that as well. Feel free to weigh in on any of these topics that we've been discussing or more. But as I said, coming up next, but hear about New York State. So stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Today's top story: increasing fuel costs continue to drive up inflation, making it harder to afford everything from food to home heating.
Here at Hustlesons, we know the only way to beat inflation is to fight inflation. So we're fighting back with zero interest financing and big cash rebates. Get a 4-person hot tub for your family for as little as $100 per month and pay zero interest. Or save up to $3,000 on a fabulous salt system hot tub. And of course, you will always get Hustlesons' unbelievable service. Don't let inflation fears kill your dreams. Fight back with Hustlesons. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hustlesons.
I'm Marian Burt. I've lived here for 70 years, but I do fine right here in my house, and I want to be here as long as I can be. And I feel comfortable knowing that if something happened to me, someone would know because of the cameras that are installed in various spots in my home. That has been a wonderful gift to me, to be able to have that security and that support from Full Circle America, and that's what it's all about.
Name something with a diamond in it.
Diamondback rattlesnake.
It's in the name. Name a low-calorie food you might make your edible underwear out of.
Salmon.
Watch it weeknights. Share it the next day.
Wild caught Norwegian teriyaki.
Share in the fun. Weeknights on Family Feud.
7 and 7:30 on Big Fox.
Sheldon and Missy face off in...
Why can't we watch DuckTales? Because we don't learn anything.
Book Smarts versus Street Smarts.
Is it working? Are you feeling motivated? Very.
It's the battle of twins.
Life is so confusing. I always hoped it would be easier for me when I grew up. It's gonna be all right. You were faking. Bazinga.
Young Sheldon.
Weeknights at 6:30 on Big.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. We got a lot of comments from viewers. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I see they have traced the origin to a popular hiking trail near Palisades. Okay. In the words of a famous American icon, only you can prevent forest fires. Thank you very much. Smokey the Bear there, of course. Next up, a different comment. I'm surprised it took so long to put it on President Trump. Yes, the blame. Well, we knew Gavin Newsom was going to look to place the blame because he doesn't obviously want any blame on himself. That's why he's blamed locals. He's blamed the county, blaming Trump for mis or disinformation. And then you had others, specifically that Senator Markey, suggesting that it was Trump's fault because he supports big oil. That's a roundabout way to blame Trump. But you're right. I'm surprised it did take so long. It's absolutely ridiculous. Here we go again. I know it's very reminiscent of 2016, where everything was used to attack Trump. They have not learned their lesson. I'm going to give you some examples of that. As a matter of fact, I can actually, do I want to tie that in right now? Why not? So, well, let me read some more of the comments. But if you want to see that the media has not learned its lesson, go no further than this program, because we try to bring you all of the media's hate for the president-elect. So we're going to talk about that once I read these other comments. This is from a different viewer. Regarding the Middle East war, though peace talks are now finally happening due to President Trump having been elected, Biden and the substandard fantasy media are attempting to make it appear as if Biden is bringing peace to the world. But I have to ask, what took Biden so long? And yes, he was siding with the terrorist organizations throughout his whole presidency. Yeah, I actually saw a report this morning that says that Israel is kind of shocked at how open to the negotiations Hamas is. Well, think of that threat that Trump made. Another wave, thank you. Think of that. Hey, you know, all hell's going to break loose if those hostages aren't released before I get into office, and that was said quite a few days ago. Gaza hostage deal. Hamas's flexibility in talks catches Israel off guard, according to Israeli news. We are close to announcing an agreement and a hostage deal, but this hinges on Israel's awaited response. If no new Israeli conditions are introduced, the agreement will be ready for announcement through the mediators, referring to Egypt, Qatar, and the United States. The source said the Hamas demonstrated significant flexibility during the talks, which surprised Israeli negotiators. This included agreeing to submit a list of living prisoners as part of the first phase and adding 11 prisoners to the list as Israel's request during the latest rounds of discussion. Additionally, Hamas did not object to the continued presence of Israeli forces in the Philadelphia corridor, the closure of the Rafah crossing, or the positioning of Israel forces at the Nazarem axis, which separates northern Gaza from the south. Well, like I said, when you make a threat, when Trump says you better do something, you better do it. I think they realize that they don't have a president that kind of what's the word? I don't want to use the word sides with Hamas, but seems to do everything to benefit Hamas. Not any longer. Not in this White House. Another comment from a different viewer. The murderer, meaning Luigi, is a prime example of why New York State should have a death penalty. That's a very good point, to make him some type of folk hero in the media. But I wanted to mention, because we had the comment that said, why I'm surprised it took so long for the media and others to start attacking Trump and blaming the wildfires on him. Just to show you, after 3.5 years of, and I hate this term, but being gaslit by the media, telling us, no, never mind what the videos are showing you. They're deep fakes or whatever, that Biden is sharp as a tack, very healthy. You had Schumer saying it. You had Hillary saying it, Pelosi saying it, Harris saying it, and the media for 3.5 years saying that Biden was mentally fit for the job and could do another 4 years. Then, of course, we saw the debate performance where it was a disaster for him and they could no longer hide the truth. So when the media says this, the audacity, this is coming out of the Mirror, out of the United Kingdom. Physically drained Donald Trump sighs in court as expert claims he's battling concerning health issues. Now, this is when he was speaking on that Zoom during his sentencing on Friday, and he sighed, frustrated by the whole situation, by the lawfare being used against him. And they said that sigh shows that he's battling concerning health issues. Where was this during the Biden administration? Looking visibly fatigued during his court appearance via video feed from his estate in Palm Beach, Trump faced sentencing on 34 felony counts related to concealing a payout. We know all about that. He received an unconditional discharge. And did you see how McCann tried to defend himself? We may get to that a little bit later on. But body language guru Judy James dissected Trump's courtroom demeanor, noting a departure from his unusual tension-filled appearances. This does not seem to be Trump in the same hunched, vengeful alpha body language mode as he adopted during some of the previous court appearances and even his iconic mugshot. For some of these poses, he is instead projecting an air of superiority with his raised brows and his slightly jutting lower lip. His eye gaze looks more distant, as though he is thinking of other things. And we can almost see a sigh in one of the pictures where his lips have parted. There's no splaying of the chest or baleful eye expressions. She interpreted his posture as indicative of Trump moving past his tumultuous period, poised to tackle the presidential challenges that lie ahead. Don't miss. Then saying, what we see seem to have then is a Gulliver state, i.e. someone bigger and stronger than the little people who are trying to pull him down. It implies less than he is physically tired, but emotionally tired of all this at this point, where he has more important things to do. His forward point looks more confrontational, and here he does engage in eye focus, but in a gesture of what looks like a reminder of his authority and the high office he's about to acquire. So where does it say that he's battling health concerns anywhere in this article other than the clickbait headline? So there you are. The media still has not learned its lesson. All right, we are going to talk about New York State issues when we come back. I meant to talk about it in that section of the program, but that's okay. We're doing just fine. We also have some international stories. We've got a lot here about the Jimmy Carter funeral. Mike Pence revealing what he said to President-elect Donald Trump. That was the first time, I guess, they had met in a little over 4 years, or right around 4 years. We also have a couple things here about Trump's nominees. This week is the confirmation hearing, so we'll be talking about that as well. Keep the comments, keep the waves coming in. We got to take a short break, so stay with us. This is, Frankly Speaking, here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
If you or a loved one regularly used hair relaxers or straighteners and were diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, you may be entitled to significant financial compensation.
I've used hair relaxers for years. I had no idea they could cause cancer.
Chemical hair relaxers and straighteners have been linked to serious conditions, including several types of cancer. If you used hair relaxers and have been diagnosed with uterine, ovarian, or endometrial cancer, call us now. There's no fee unless we win your case. Call today.
Football's newest show breaks down all things NFL. GMFB Overtime.
Check out top highlights, player interviews, special guests, and everything in between. 5 days a week.
GMFB Overtime. It's football for everyone.
The Fox Sports app isn't just any sports app. It's your sports app.
For the touchdown!
Yeah, yours. Your teams, your highlights, your scores, your stories. Just choose your favorites to get more of what you want.
To the end zone!
And of course, stream your teams live. The best part is free with your pay TV subscription. Touchdown! Grab your Fox Sports app today.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Thank you to everyone joining us. We had a lot of waves, a lot of comments so far. So here we go. Let's talk about New York State issues. A couple different things. So first of all, this is kind of odd. State lawmakers said there's a way to keep voters waiting in line from bolting or even fainting. How about feeding them? A bill introduced by Assemblywoman Joanne Simon, a Democrat from Brooklyn, would allow election workers and party and campaign officials to offer nominal snacks and refreshments to New Yorkers waiting to vote. So if the campaigns are allowed to do this, the people running expect to have probably your groceries delivered to you right there in the line. In New York State, despite continued progress on making our elections more accessible, certain polling locations continue to have massive lines. Leaving those lines for a simple glass of water can forfeit a voter's position, which is often not an option for individuals taking time off from work. Boy, is it just me, or do they make voting sound a lot more difficult than it is? Voting should not be an endurance test, and allowing organizations to provide nominal refreshments will help protect their franchise until voting is no longer a burden. A similar measure has previously passed the state Senate. The measure is sponsored by Senator Zalnor Miri from Brooklyn, who is running for mayor, but it hasn't passed the Democrat-run assembly. All right. I just brought that up because I saw it in the news this morning, and I thought that was an odd way to maybe, quote-unquote, buy votes. But New York's Governor Kathy Hochul has unveiled a cap and invest plan. In this plan, critics say it could send gas prices soaring 12 cents per gallon, leaving New Yorkers, quote, another reason to leave. Oh boy, it does start to sound like there's a war on drivers in New York, isn't there? Governor Kathy Hochul is expected to announce an anti-pollution push in her State of the State speech, which is tomorrow, that critics warn may hike home heating costs and send gas prices soaring by as much as 22 cents on the gallon. And we'll be talking with Assemblyman Phil Palmisano on Friday's show. So we look forward to hearing from him on his opinion on the state of the state. The sweeping Cap and Invest program, which comes on the heels of a new $9 congestion toll, aims to reduce carbon emissions by forcing oil companies to pay for greenhouse gases, a move that the industry giants are likely to pass on to consumers. And this is just like the climate change super fund that we've talked so much about. $75 billion in fines for not doing anything wrong. They did exactly what the DEC asked of them through all these years, but now they're being punished retroactively. And of course, as we know, that $75 billion will be passed on. Even Speaker Carl Hastie saying so right before he allowed this to go to a vote, that this will be passed on to consumers, that they're not just going to eat $75 billion. So all of this adds up, all in the name of virtue signaling and protecting the world from global warming. They have to raise the price of petroleum products. I don't know how raising the cost makes New York affordable, said John Howard, a former member of the Public Service Commission. It's another reason, this is an exact quote from him, it's another reason to leave New York. And we've seen this mass exodus year after year, where it's just getting too expensive to live here. And Governor Hochul, all in the name of virtue signaling, costing taxpayers more and more. Proceeds from the plan will be used to fund green initiatives like electrifying buildings and the latest push by the administration against fossil fuel companies, even as some worry its residents who will be caught in the crosshairs. And we know that the grid is not there yet. We cannot have all of this electricity. Obviously, they want to have EV buses, I should say. At schools, they want you to, at some point, have your whole home transferred over to electricity. Of course, the grid is just not there. Last month, Hochul approved a controversial law that will force oil, natural gas, and coal companies to fork over a staggering $75 billion to the state for carbon emissions and allegedly contributing to climate change. Quote, under Cap and Invest, motorists could pay an extra 12 cents a gallon at the pump next year and 22 cents per gallon as soon as 2027. Said a group called Upstate United. The increase at the pump, according to the analysis, would be $68.8 million in Suffolk County, $51.1 million in Nassau, $26.6 million in Westchester, $26.38 million in Erie, $22.7 million in Onondaga, and $21.4 million in Monroe, and $19.79 million in Albany. I'm not sure why Steubenville, among others, were overlooked. Consumers would also pay more for home heating fuels, including natural gas, propane, and oil. The study said New York drivers currently pay the 9th highest gas prices in the country, and the Cap and Invest program would boost it to 6th place. The governor would likely offer subsidies to lower-income New Yorkers to offset sticker shock in New York as New York transitions towards clean energy and away from fossil fuel. Now, her office has declined to comment on this. Quote, Governor Hochul is focused on lowering the cost of living, putting money back in New Yorkers' pockets with refunds, tax credits, and more. That has been her newest talking point, that she wants to put money back in your pockets. The governor would unveil her full State of the State agenda on Tuesday. But the $230 billion state budget approved in 2023 included a Cap and Invest plan to cut carbon emissions, and Hochul's administration at the time admitted it would spark future spikes in energy costs. Gasoline prices could increase by 62 cents per gallon, while natural gas costs might skyrocket by 80%, said former State Department of Environmental Conservation Commissioner Basil Sagos. The prices would go up as fuel producers pay for the carbon emissions under the plan and then pass that cost on to consumers. The Cap and Invest plan would limit the total carbon emissions allowed statewide, as well as the potential number of carbon credits that companies could bid for instead of cutting their emissions. The plan would also include recommendations to help New Yorkers deal with the resulting price increases. So another way to help the voters of New York State go broke. Now, Richie Torres, who it is being speculated that he is going to primary Governor Hochul. He's a Democrat, Richie Torres. He was out on the attack on Governor Hochul, not on this specific reason, the cap and invest. It would cost us as much as, 12 to 22 cents more per gallon, as the headline says here, another reason to leave New York. We're going to talk about New York a little bit more here. Keep those comments coming in. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Isn't your wellness important? Don't you want more energy? Now's the best time to make every day better and relieve those achy muscles and pains than with the Hesselson's Hot Tub. Hesselson's has hot tubs in stock and available for immediate delivery with unbelievable savings. Hesselson's offers 0% interest-free financing for up to 5 full years. Hesselson's carries the only hot tub brand in the industry with the exclusive freshwater salt system that is eco-friendly and easy to use and only enhances your hot tubbing experience. Come in today and see why your next hot tub should be a Hesselson's hot tub. And remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Okay, Dad, look at you.
I look nice, don't I?
I see you.
Adding your own flavor to fashion comes with age.
Oh, man, that's the best one yet.
Forgetting how to add doesn't. Finding it difficult to work with numbers may be a sign of Alzheimer's.
Dad, are you okay?
An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one.
All right.
High school. Yeah.
Hey, Dad. Do you want to talk about what happened earlier?
Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's. Some things come with age, some others.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio, wrapping up hour number 1. Let's take a look at some comments. This is from a viewer. On a lighter note, Bills kicked butt. Thank you very much. Yes, they will now face the Ravens on Sunday. They did look good. Comment from a viewer. Hochul is a typical socialist Democrat. Tax, spend, 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 run out of money, and tax some more. It's driving people out of the state. Another comment from a different viewer. Trump has been through you-know-what and back 24/7 for years of this taxpayer-funded circus, and the media clowns spin a sigh of relief as a severe health issue. Give me a break. I know the media has not learned, folks. It does not surprise me, though. You will see the attack mode. You're seeing it on Pete Hegseth and others that are going to be at the confirmation hearings. There's not going to be a honeymoon for Donald Trump. We all know that. A couple other New York State issues. Okay, here we go. Here's a comment from a viewer. I'm retired and can't keep up financially with the governor's idiotic proposals. New Yorkers need to vote her out if they still want to stay. Just ridiculous. And yes, some names are being thrown around for Republicans, also on the Democrat side. And Richie Torres blasted Governor Hochul. Now he is thinking about primarying her. We've seen a lot of op-eds from him trying to take up the mantle of public safety, which would be very effective. Whether or not it's true or not with Mr. Torres is another question. But Richie Torres, the New York City congressman, eviscerated Governor Hochul for her passive stance on an open-air drug market festering in the South Bronx. It's called The Hub, and it's a junkie wasteland. Torres, who is eyeing a run for governor, wrote in a strongly worded letter to Hochul and Mayor Eric Adams that in addition to amending New York's lax bail and stringent evidence discovery laws, the state must grant the governor greater authority to place individuals with severe mental illness and chemical addictions into involuntary care, whether it takes the form of inpatient commitment or outpatient assisted treatment. Quote, the governor would never tolerate an open-air drug market outside the governor's mansion. That's a good point. The state's do-nothing approach and the city's ad hoc approach has led to a game of whack-a-mole in which the New York Police Department temporarily removes the open-air drug market only to see it reemerge almost overnight. This is Richie Torres. Torres questioned why residents are, quote, forced to see drug addicts injecting themselves with fentanyl in the presence of their children, all in broad daylight, and demanded that New Yorkers living in the area be given, quote, the same standard of public safety and quality of life as everyone else. Torres wrote, what the Bronx needs is not a short-term Band-Aid, but a long-term solution to the crisis in the hub. What we deserve and demand is not a temporary relocation of the drug users and dealers, but a permanent removal of the open-air drug market itself, which has become a deepening rot at the commercial core of the South Bronx. Criminals feel more emboldened than ever before to use and sell drugs out in the open, confident that the criminal justice system will never hold them accountable and keep releasing them back onto the streets. The recidivists know the rules of the game and know how to game the broken system to break the rules. Hochul spokesperson Avi Small fired back, saying, we are not taking public safety advice from a politician who supported defunding $1 billion from the NYPD and voted to decriminalize public urination. Governor Hochul is committed to public safety, which is why we fought to change the bail laws to give judges more discretion and crack down on repeat offenders, and will introduce legislation this year to fix involuntary commitment. Well, we know at the time when she changed the bail reform, it had no teeth. It was just so she could say that exact thing that she just said. But you could tell already a little bit of infighting or fighting between the two as Richie Torres considers primarying her to run for governor. And he's smart in the sense that he's talking about public safety, because we know that's what helped Lee Zeldin. Nearly saw a win by Lee Zeldin because he was laser-like focused on public safety. A couple of other New York issues when we come back. Hour number 2. It's hard to believe. Hour number 1 already in the books. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking.
Getting the right representation.
It matters.
Hiring a law firm whose focus is motor vehicle accident cases.
It matters.
Hiring a firm with the experience and resources to maximize your recovery.
It matters.
William Mattar is the largest motor vehicle accident firm in New York State. We got that way by winning. If you're hurt in a car, it matters who you hire. Call William Mattar. Visit WilliamMattar.com.
Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website.
Hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. I'm your host, Frank Hakem. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Keep those comments coming in. Keep those waves coming in. How about this from a comment from a viewer? Why don't we sell New York State to Canada? They would probably run it better. Thank you. Maybe the city, maybe not the state. Speaking of New York State, disgraced former governor Andrew Cuomo, according to CNN, is setting up for a comeback try as New York City mayor. At the end of September, former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo quietly switched his voter registration address to an apartment on East 54th Street in Manhattan. It marked the first time he'd lived in New York City officially in decades. By December, he was ramping up conversations with local political officials and a select group of influential community leaders, hinting at plans to run for mayor in the June primary. What if, Cuomo mused, Eric Adams, who currently holds the job but is now facing an April trial date on federal corruption charges, resigned or opted out of running for re-election? He's been telling donors and other influential political figures that if he gets in, he's going to win, and they've got to get behind him. Now, his spokesperson, Rich Azzopardi, said he just hasn't decided yet. It's purely personal. It's whether or not he wants to commit the time and the energy. He was 24/7 as governor. It's a major commitment. It's something he and his family are talking about. All right. We've heard for a long time that he was going to declare. When is he going to declare? Is he going to declare that he's going to run for New York City mayor? Now, we had mentioned public safety being a major issue, that Governor Hochul not really doing anything to help public safety, but trying to suggest she is, so because she knows it's such an important issue to voters. Well, get this. This is hard to believe. Bail reform, the bail reform law, just turned 5 years old. The legislation, known generically as bail reform, limited the circumstances under which people who have been arrested can be held in jail as a wait trial. We've talked so often about how many victims that didn't need to be victims are out there, how many people have been victims numerous times because of this law. After bail reform passed, judges were no longer allowed to require defendants charged with most misdemeanors and nonviolent felonies to pay for their release from jail. The legislation passed in 2019 and took effect in 2020. Wow. Now, critics say bail and discovery reform are making New York less safe. Is that true? Here's an example. Never mind what you're experiencing, what you're feeling. It's really not that bad. Well, there's a reason why people are continuing to run away from it, like Governor Hochul. But 5 years. One other New York State issue before we move along here. Representative Elise Stefanik, the battle to succeed her in Washington has intensified. The North County Republican will leave an open seat in Congress if she is confirmed to serve as President Trump's next ambassador to the United Nations. Her confirmation hearing will be on the 16th. She is almost certain to be confirmed by the Republican-controlled Senate. There doesn't seem to be any real backlash over her. Now, multiple GOP contenders have been vying to gain support of key Republican Party leaders as they seek to slide into Stefanik's seat in New York's 21st congressional district. Upstate Republicans see as a step up the political ladder in a district their party is likely to win. Stefanik beat her Democrat challenger by more than 80,000 votes back in November. For Democrats, the breakneck speed of the special election process offers a rare opportunity to regain control over the once purple district. Much of their campaigning remains unofficial since the seat won't officially open until Stefanik resigns. At that point, Governor Hochul will have 10 days to schedule a special election to be held within another 70 to 80 days. Instead of a traditional primary election, the process requires the chairs of the county Republican and Democrat Party committees within the district to select the party's nominee. Each chair's vote is weighed by the number of registered party voters in their county. We'll be in the national spotlight, so to speak. It's going to be a big race, said Jason Ellis, chair of the Franklin County Republican Committee. We have a lot of good qualified candidates, so we're blessed in that regard. With that decisive win that Trump had and that Elise has carried in the district, we're confident that we can choose the right candidate, and that's the next congressperson that will be a Republican. So we'll keep an eye open on that. The GOP contenders, Republicans already in elected office, battle for the post, including Senator Daniel Steck, Rensselaer County Executive Steve McLaughlin, and State Assembly members Chris Tague and Robert Smolin. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that. We talked earlier about an international story. Let me give you one more international story. The Sun is reporting that ISIS fanatics are plotting to unleash a wave of terror. According to a general who defeated the death cult, ISIS could unleash a new wave of terror by springing fighters from camps like the one that is holding Samima Begum, a top general who helped defeat the death cult, has revealed. General Mazu Abdi, who leads the Syrian Democratic Forces, a Kurdish-led U.S.-backed militia, sounded the alarm over the resurgent terror group. Speaking to The Sun in an interview, Abdi said there are currently 10,000 male fighters in prison ready to bring devastation back to the Middle East, and the camps are known to include Brits, such as the infamous jihadi bride Samina Begum. U.S. intelligence ranks 2,000 deranged ISIS fighters in the camps as highly dangerous, something that we cannot take lightly. Just wanted to pass that along to you as we get away from the international front. Okay, so yesterday, Christopher Wray, outgoing FBI director Christopher Wray, said he's leaving his post when President-elect Donald Trump assumes office to avoid throwing the Bureau, quote, deeper in the fray, as he defended his agency's raid of the former president's Florida estate. Now, this was on CBS's 60 Minutes. The controversial search for classified documents at Mar-a-Lago and how China is the defining threat of our generation in this wide-ranging interview. Wray said he decided to step down before completing his 10-year term, and it was one of the hardest decisions he's ever faced. He announced his departure from the post last month. Quote, I care deeply, deeply about the FBI, about our mission, and in particular about our people. But, the president-elect has made clear that he intends to make a change. And the law is that it is something he is able to do for any reason or no reason at all. My conclusion was that the thing that was best for the Bureau was to try to do this in an orderly way, to not thrust the FBI deeper into the fray. While Trump did appoint Wray to lead the FBI during his first term in office, the Republican was enraged when the federal agent raided his Mar-a-Lago house in 2022 in search of classified documents the former, now incoming president was accused of mishandling. Wray, who served as director for more than 7 years, also caught heat as the FBI probed alleged attempts to subvert the results of the 2020 election. Trump faced federal charges brought by a special prosecutor before both cases were dropped after he won the election in November. Wray stood up for the agents in both cases, insisting it's the Bureau's job to, quote, follow the facts wherever they may lead, no matter who likes it. And when we learn the information, classified material, is not being properly stored, we have a duty to act. And I could tell you that in the investigation, like this one, a search warrant is not, and here was not anybody's first, this was not anybody's first choice. Wray said he hasn't had any discussion with the Biden administration about any probe into Trump and doesn't believe anyone else in the FBI has been in touch with the current White House. Wray also defended the FBI in its investigation into President Biden's son, Hunter, who was convicted of gun and tax charges before his father pardoned him last month. Biden has labeled the prosecution the result of raw politics. This is a hard job, Wray told Pelley. You're inevitably going to make different people angry, often very powerful people. He also warned the U.S. faces a growing threat from the Chinese government, including its cyber program that has stolen personnel and corporate data from Americans and is targeting crucial United States infrastructure. We talk about the real serious threat of China, one that I don't believe politicians, and specifically this White House, has taken seriously. But, quote, things like water treatment plants. We're talking about transportation systems. We're talking about targeting of our energy sector, the electric grid, natural gas pipelines. And recently, we've seen targeting of our telecommunication systems. The challenges from China and other adversaries could fall to former attorney for the U.S. Justice Department's National Security Division, Kash Patel, who Trump has nominated to lead the FBI, but will still need U.S. Senate confirmation. So China, the very real threat, it doesn't surprise me Wray stepped down. There's been a lot of criticism of the job that he has done, of course, targeting Trump, not doing enough. Most people considered when it comes to Hunter Biden, offering that sweetheart plea deal that his lawyers were too cocky to accept or to take. But we also have on this lawfare avenue, I'm going to come back, we're going to talk about Jack Smith. Jack Smith did resign from the DOJ. We'll talk about that here in just a little bit. I see a lot. Wow, we got a lot of comments coming in. So stay with us. We'll read those comments when we come back. Some interesting ones here. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
If you're in the market for a vehicle but not looking to buy new, Elm Chevrolet has a great selection of certified pre-owned vehicles ready to go. Locally sourced, serviced, and priced, you'll find the right vehicle at Elm Chevrolet on Church Street in Elmira. Together, let's drive.
When you think boots, think Hesselsen's. Hesselsen's has the largest selection of work boots in the area. Composite and steel toe boots, Met Guard boots, soft toe boots, and hikers, duty and western boots all in one location. Hesselsen's, Elmira Heights. Hesselsen's has men's and ladies boots in all sizes and widths. Choose from the largest names in the industry: Danner, Carolina, Timberland Pro, Keen Utility, Thorogood, Area, and Georgia, to name just a few. Hesselsen's has been locally owned and operated since 1955, so when you think local service and great selection, think Hesselsen's. Remember, it's always fun to poke in the corners at Hesselsen's.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What? I can't drive. Why? I'm high.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history making. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Look at our beautiful view of Market Street on this Monday morning as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. We got quite a few comments coming in. Question: can a sitting president remove a sitting governor from office? If so, I will start a petition to send to President Trump urging him to remove Hochul. I do not believe so. Obviously, that's the state picks the governor. There is no recall mechanism in our Constitution. So really, the only one that could oust Governor Hochul is Governor Hochul herself. So no, there is no mechanism there for that. Next up, a comment from a different viewer. Here is a thought. Tom Reed for governor. Just putting it out there. Well, thank you, viewer. Just put it out there. We have a lot of people making suggestions of who should be running for governor. Interesting. Thank you very much. Now, special counsel Jack Smith has resigned. His departure was disclosed in a court filing submitted Saturday afternoon to U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon. So kind of officially resigning Friday from the Justice Department. Word of Smith's departure came in a footnote to a court filing Justice Department officials submitted to U.S. District Judge Eileen Cannon on Saturday afternoon, urging her to not extend a court order she issued last week, temporarily blocking the release of the final report Smith submitted to department leaders on Tuesday. Justice Department officials say Cannon's orders overstepped her authority and that she had no power to block Attorney General Merrick Garland from releasing Smith's finding. Her ban on disclosing of Smith's report currently runs through Monday. Garland has said he plans to release publicly only the portion of Smith's report that covers his investigation into Trump's effort to subvert the 2020 election. The Attorney General has said in court filings that he agreed with a recommendation from Smith to keep the other volume, which addresses the probe into Trump's possession of a raft of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago, under wraps due to prosecutors' ongoing efforts to revive a criminal case against two Trump allies and former co-defendants. Instead, Garland intends only to show that report to a handful of members of Congress. So no surprise here. We know that he did not want to be fired by Trump, so that he was going to resign or step down. This was kind of a long time coming. Though Trump and his allies have warned the aspects of the report might leak if Garland is permitted to share it with Congress, the only details of the report that have become public came from Trump and his attorneys, who spent 3 days this month reviewing the report. In a letter Trump allies attached to a court filing, Trump's lawyers indicated that the 2020 election report characterized Trump as being engaged in an unprecedented criminal effort as the head of the criminal conspiracies that concluded that he harbored a criminal design. And Trump suggested in a press conference last week that he anticipates the final report will clock in at 500 pages. Tying in with that, with the election, did you see what, and we have more updates on that, but did you see what J.D. Vance had to say over the weekend? J.D. Vance was on Fox News Sunday, and he was talking about January 6th. Oh, here's a comment from a viewer. If the president can't remove the governor, can we get her involuntarily committed? I don't think so. I don't think anybody can get involuntarily committed yet until that changes. And Governor Hochul, has indicated that she does want to change that, as we see. I know they keep telling us public safety is fine, everything's good. Never mind what you see with your own eyes. Never mind what you've experienced or felt. Just trust them and their bureaucracy and their reports from these nameless, faceless bureaucrats. But Vice President-elect J.D. Vance said that President-elect Trump will issue pardons for peaceful protesters on January 6, 2021, but not violent rioters. Vance said that there were scores of individuals who, quote, were prosecuted unfairly after the January 6th ransacking of the Capitol, and the Trump administration will rectify that. If you protested peacefully on January the 6th and you've had Merrick Garland's Department of Justice treat you like a gang member, you should be pardoned, Vance said on Fox News Sunday. If you committed violence on that day, obviously you shouldn't be pardoned. And there's a little bit of gray area there, but we're very much committed to seeing the equal administration of law. Vance later responded to backlash over the comments, with some accusing him of walking back promises to pardon people who were at the Capitol on January 6th. Quote, the president saying he'll look at each case, and me saying the same is not walking back. Trump has long teased plans to issue clemency towards some of the individuals charged, but he's also had a caveat that the administration would look at each case individually. Since the storming of the Capitol 4 years ago, prosecutors have filed charges against more than 1,500 people. Nearly 1,300 have been convicted and 1,100 sentenced. According to a tracker from the Associated Press, only 2 were acquitted. Most of the charges revolved around illegal parading, entering a restricted area, and disorderly conduct. But there were at least 238 charges pertaining to assault and 86 tied to physical violence. Vance also weighed in on the California wildfire crisis, saying that he is heartbroken over the devastation, but he also faulted a serious lack of competent governance for the scale of the destruction. Some of these reservoirs have been dry for 15, 20 years. The fire hydrants are being reported as going dry while the firefighters are trying to put out the fires. There's a serious lack of competent governance in California. And I think it's part of the reason why these fires have gotten so bad. We need to do a better job at both the state and federal level. Trump has accused officials of not properly managing the forest. As you know, we've talked about that in the past. President Trump cares about Americans, Vance said. I think he intends to have FEMA and other federal responses much, much better and much more clued into what's going on there on the ground. President Trump often says that the coalition that made him the president was just a common sense coalition. The things that united us is just that basic idea that, yes, government should be smaller, but when government does the things that it should do, it ought to do them well. Trump has directed many of those criticisms at California in the past, particularly with Gavin Newsom. President Trump is committed to doing a better job when it comes to disaster relief. That's true for the hurricane victims and flood victims in North Carolina. It's true for the fire victims in California. That doesn't mean you can't criticize the governor of California for, I think, some very bad decisions. Also, Vance downplayed the idea that Trump will deploy military force to take the Panama Canal or Greenland. We don't have to use military force. The thing that people always ignore is we already have troops in Greenland. The people of Greenland want to be empowered to develop the resources there. We also need to make sure that Greenland is properly cared for from an American security perspective. And frankly, the current leadership, the Danish government, has not done a good enough job of securing Greenland. There actually is a real opportunity here for us to take leadership to protect America's security, to ensure that those incredible natural resources are developed. We're going to talk about Greenland here in just a moment, but since we're talking kind of January 6th, and we know that I'm running just a little bit late. We know that Mike Pence spoke with Donald Trump for the first time in around 4 years at Jimmy Carter's funeral. We'll tell you what Mike Pence revealed about that conversation. We have something here about Judge McCann, a couple things here just about the Biden administration in general and Trump. So stay with us. Keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. A lot of great comments, and I appreciate it. Keep them coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Attention, Elmeron may lead to vision loss.
If you have suffered vision problems after taking Elmeron to treat bladder pain, call the Hearn Law Firm. Elmeron may be responsible for your vision problems, and you may deserve compensation for your injuries.
If you took Elmeron and now have vision problems, call the Hearn Law Firm at 888-308-3866 right now. You could find out if you qualify in less than 2 minutes. Call 888-308-3866 for your free case review.
Whether because of discomfort, lack of mobility, your lifestyle, or occupation, you sit inactively way too many hours a day. Introducing Ellipse, the premium quality automatic seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation without physical strain or impact.
It is so quiet that none of my coworkers even know I'm using it.
Strengthen and tone your legs, increase your mobility, flexibility, and balance, plus stimulate healthy circulation.
My joints feel better, my knees feel
better. My back feels better. It makes me feel stronger, too.
Perfect for home therapy. Whisper Quiet to use while you work.
My circulation is moving, I'm burning calories, and it makes me feel energetic.
Call now and order Ellipse, the seated exerciser that strengthens legs, increases mobility, and boosts circulation. Call and get upgraded to the Deluxe Bundle. Get the faster motor for 5 miles of steps per hour, the step counter, the sport mat, and wireless remote. Call now.
Welcome to Frankly Speaking, talking to the people that affect your life, that affect all of our day-to-day lives. This is something you're not going to get anywhere else. We've got a lot to offer. There'll be a lot of news, local, regional, national, really the things that affect you. And I think you'll be glad that you tuned in. So think of it as radio on TV. Frankly Speaking, live, 2 hours long, starting at 6 a.m. on WYDC TV Big Fox. This is history making. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. And we are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. I was going to tell you what Mike Pence had to say, but first, breaking news just coming in. The email, the Trump-Vance Inaugural Committee announced the schedule of events for the upcoming inauguration. If you want to find out more or still sign up for tickets, you can go to T, as in Trump, 47, T, let me try this again. T as in Trump, 47inaugural.com. Here is the schedule of events. On Saturday, January 18th, the president's reception and fireworks at Trump Sterling. Then you have the cabinet reception and vice president's dinner. On Sunday, January 19th, the Arlington National Cemetery ceremony, a wreath-laying ceremony at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. Then a Make America Great Again victory rally, where Trump will deliver remarks, and then a candlelight dinner, where Trump will also deliver remarks. Then on Monday, January 20th, St. John's Church service, then tea at the White House, swearing-in ceremony at the U.S. Capitol, farewell to the former president and vice president, U.S. Capitol departure ceremony, the president's signing room ceremony, JCCIC congressional luncheon, the president's review of the troops, the presidential parade on Pennsylvania Avenue, Oval Office signing ceremony at the White House, Commander-in-Chief Ball, where President Donald J. Trump will attend, as well as the Liberty Inaugural Ball, and then the Starlight Ball. And then on Tuesday, January 21st, it's the National Prayer Service. So there is breaking news. If you are going to the inauguration, I would love to hear from you, especially if you're going to go, and maybe we'll have a little back and forth with you during the day to save for the next day's broadcast. So please let me know. Former Vice President Mike Pence did reveal what he told his former boss, Donald Trump, and that was their first meeting since leaving the White House in 2021. I wouldn't really call it a meeting, just running into each other, essentially, at Jimmy Carter's funeral. The once and future commander-in-chief had a brief exchange and shook hands with his ex-VP en route to his seat at the state funeral. Mike Pence said, quote, "He greeted me when he came down the aisle. I stood up, extended my hand. He shook my hand. I said, 'Congratulations, Mr. President,' and he said, 'Thanks, Mike.'" Pence said he was glad to speak to Trump, with whom he had an icy relationship since the 2020 election controversy. The opportunity to speak to the president yesterday is something that I really appreciated. I welcomed. I really been blessed at how much I've heard from people around the country who saw our handshake, and in that handshake saw some hope that we might be moving past those difficult days. And that's certainly my hope, Pence told podcaster Russell Moore. Those difficult days included one conversation in which Trump gave an icy reply to a gesture of goodwill from Pence. In one of their final conversations while in office, Pence offered to pray for Trump, allegedly, who said, "Don't bother." According to Christianity Today, I said, there's probably two things that we're never going to agree on, Pence said. We're probably never going to agree on what my duty was under the Constitution on January 6th, and I'm never going to stop praying for you. And Trump said, "That's right, Mike, don't ever change." Now, Pence also addressed, it was kind of controversial, that Pence's wife would not shake President-elect Donald Trump's hand. He said, "You'd have to ask my wife about her posture, but we've been married 44 years, and she loves her husband, and her husband respects her deeply." So there you are. That's what was being said, the controversial handshake, or the handshake heard round the world. Now back to Judge McCann. On Friday, the sentencing of President-elect Donald Trump saw one of the most impassioned defense arguments given at such a hearing in years from none other than the judge himself. Now, we talked about this on Friday that unfortunately Mercan wants Trump sentenced, so then it is official. He's a convicted felon. He'll be the first, and you've seen it nonstop from the media, the first convicted felon to be elected president, to be sworn into office. Acting Justice Juan Mercan admitted that the case was unique and remarkable, but insisted that, quote, once the courtroom doors were closed, the trial itself was no more special, unique, and extraordinary than the other 32 cases in the courthouse. If so, that is a damning indictment of the entire New York court system, right? Mercan allowed a dead misdemeanor to be brought back by allowing Manhattan District Attorney Alvin Bragg to effectively prosecute declined federal offenses. He allowed a jury to convict Trump without any agreement, let alone unanimity, on what exactly occurred in the case. Mercan ruled that the jury did not have to agree on why Trump committed an alleged offense in describing settlement costs as legal costs. Neither the defendant nor the public will ever know what the jury ultimately found in its verdict. I once described this case, and this is Jonathan Turley, who I really respect Jonathan Turley. He said, I once described this case as a legal Frankenstein. It is the ultimate gravedigger charge, where Bragg unearthed a case from 2016 and through a series of novel steps is seeking to bring it back to life. Bragg is combining parts from both state and federal codes. Even liberal legal experts have denounced the case, and Senator John Fetterman recently called it total, we'll say baloney. Now Mercan seemed quick to ensure this Frankenstein case was just like any other creature of the court. It does not matter that it was stitched together from dead cases and zapped into life through lawfare. Mercan knows that there's a fair chance this monstrosity will finally die on appeal, and he was making the case for his own conduct. The verdict, however, is likely to last far longer than the Trump verdict. It is a judgment against not just Mercan, but the New York legal system, which allowed itself to be weaponized against political opponents. Trump can now appeal the case as a whole. Prior appeals to the New York court system were unsuccessful, and hopes are low that the system will redeem itself. However, Trump can eventually escape the vortex of the New York court system in search of jurists willing to see beyond the rage and bring reason to this case. Mercan's monster will now go on the road and work its way back to the Supreme Court. Outside of New York, this freak attraction will likely be viewed as less thrilling than chilling. Lawfare is that monster. It threatens us all, even those who hate Trump and his supporters. Once released, it spreads panic among the public, which can no longer rely on the guarantees of blind and fair justice. That includes businesses that view this case and the equally absurd civil case brought by New York Attorney General Letitia James as creating a dangerous and even lawless environment. Many are saying there, but for the grace of God go I, in a system that allows for selective prosecution. Many will be blamed as the creators of this monster, but few will escape the blame, including Mercan himself. That was Jonathan Turley. Now we learned, I don't quite understand this. Oh, wow, we've got so many comments coming in. We'll get to those in just a moment. But the Department of Homeland Security under Secretary Mayorkas is reportedly attempting to kill the Laken-Riley Act, a bill that requires the DHS to take illegal aliens who've been charged, arrested, or convicted for crimes such as theft, larceny, burglary, or shoplifting into custody. We brought this story to you last week. There's been a few who have reported on it saying that it should likely pass the Senate with no problem. It's already passed the House. 158 Democrats voting against it. Seems like a pretty standard law, almost kind of shocking that it's not already in effect. Pablo Manriquez, a news reporter, wrote in a post on X that sources at DHS were informing him that the cost of the Laken-Riley Act was estimated to be $20 and $30 billion. Where does that number come from? Manriquez added that the DHS sources had cited a $7 billion figure just for beds before the mandate's cost on local law enforcement. The post came in response to an article shared by Steph Knight, a political reporter with Axios. In the article from Axios, it was revealed that federal immigration officials had warned that they may need to detain roughly 60,000 people and require billions of dollars and thousands more detention beds. So Mayorkas is seeking to kill the Laken-Riley Act. Not on a side of history I would want to be on. So the confirmation hearings begin this week. And they are likely to reveal a defining trait uniting Donald Trump's incoming cabinet, regardless of their diverse political backgrounds and uneven qualifications, according to CNN, an unflinching allegiance to the president-elect. So this is the mindset, and we keep talking about this with the media not learning their lesson. They look at it as a negative that Trump has people around him that are loyal. Of course, we know all presidents pick their cabinet based on some level of loyalty. You wouldn't want someone in there, and because we saw a little bit of this last time in 2016 with President Trump, people that weren't loyal, working against the best interests or the interests that he ran on, which is, of course, the Make America Great Again, America First policies, fighting him, and the deep state politician or deep state bureaucrats as well, working against him. So for weeks, Trump's handpicked nominees, again, as if that's something new, that he shouldn't handpick his nominees, have undergone rigorous preparation for their high-stakes Capitol Hill appearances, including intensive studying sessions, contentious mock hearings, and heavy-handed coaching from Republican senators. Over long hours behind closed doors, Trump allies and advisors have forced candidates to confront their vulnerabilities, perfect their pitches, and practice sidestepping traps laid by Democrats. The intense rehearsals are not all too different from Trump's first term, which his team prepared its nominees during practices by interrupting their answers with protests, shouting matches between standing committee members, personal attacks, and other outbursts intended to derail their concentration. What distinguishes this round, however, is the heightened expectation that Trump's picks will present not just their own expertise, but a clear and unwavering loyalty to the president-elect's agenda, a public display that was not always assured during the first term. Again, that's what the American people voted for, the president-elect's agenda, and they are presenting this at CNN as a negative. Sean Spicer saying this time people view the nominees as an extension of Donald Trump and his agenda. They're not there to defend their own views. They're there to defend Trump's policies. The movement was in a very different place in the early days of Trump's first election. Indeed, hearing from Trump's cabinet 8 years ago were defined in part by the pained efforts by some of his nominees to distance their views from the campaign's declaration of the man they intended to serve. Several of them, for example, told senators they viewed climate change as a legitimate man-made threat, while Trump as a candidate called it a Chinese hoax. Others appeared unpersuaded by Trump's plan to build a wall at the U.S.-Mexico border to halt illegal immigration. So some have said this could be Brett Kavanaugh on steroids. It will be interesting. We'll be keeping a close eye on that. We've got a little bit more on that. Wow, this show's moving fast this morning. Look at all these comments coming in. We'll get to them when we come back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox will be right back.
Hustling plus overbooked plus bustling plus cleaning overlooked. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done. Plus too busy, plus bustling, plus in a tizzy. It all adds up. With Mary Maid's professional cleaning services, you'll have one less thing to worry about. Mary Maid's. Relax. It's done.
Okay, Dad, look at you.
I look nice, don't I?
I see you.
Adding your own flavor to fashion comes with age.
Oh, man, that's the best one yet.
Forgetting how to add doesn't. Finding it difficult to work with numbers may be a sign of Alzheimer's.
Dad, are you okay?
An early diagnosis can help improve the quality of life for your loved one.
High school. Yeah.
Hey, Dad. Do you want to talk about what happened earlier?
Learn the warning signs of Alzheimer's. Some things come with age. Some others don't.
Multiple studies have shown that marijuana can slow both driver reaction and response time, which can be really dangerous. He's here. He's here. Wait. What?
I can't drive.
Why?
I'm high.
Oh.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking, as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go through some viewer comments. First up, good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. I've seen property insurance companies force everything from sidewalk repairs to building electrical systems upgrades. When several companies stopped writing policies in California, it was probably because they could anticipate a disaster in the making that they would not be able to mitigate. Incompetent people in charge of government agencies resulted in dry reservoirs and hydrants. Risk management companies saw this coming and protected themselves. I think you are correct, Fred. Thank you for sending that in. Now, a lot of people are upset about that. These insurance companies, and you've seen an uptick in it was very troubling rhetoric online talking about Luigi that we mentioned earlier on this program. Comment from a different viewer. What if we took the $500 that the governor is handing out to go into a fund to get her out? Money talks. Maybe. You say we write her a big check if she's willing to step down. Interesting. Next up, different comment. Hochul needs to go. That's a certain. But Cuomo is definitely not the answer. He doesn't deserve to be anything but an undertaker, because I think he's experienced at that. Yeah, unfortunately, the worst decision, not just in COVID, perhaps in gubernatorial history, which is to allow COVID sick patients into nursing homes. He's not looking at, well, I shouldn't say ever, but he's not looking at running for governor yet. That was more of a focus on mayor. I don't think he should be reelected, unfortunately, because it is the city. I believe he probably will get elected as mayor of New York if he decides to run. Next up, comment from a different viewer. I lost all respect for Mike Pence. I think he was an imposter, okay? I thought he was good for Trump at the time and believed that he was a man of faith. I think he is just another snake and probably the mole in the White House during Trump's presidency. When I witnessed him watching Pelosi rip up Trump's speech, it told me everything I needed to know. I was duped, and that was a hard one to accept. Thank you very much for that. I've heard other people echo that sentiment. Comment from, wow, we got a lot of comments coming in. Schumer, your senator, thank you, is trying to attract some foolish spending to that law. Yes, the Lake and Riley Act, I saw that he is starting the negotiation process, which is they're going to try to tack a lot of things onto that. So yes, I did see that. Thank you for calling him my senator too. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. Naturally, they are going to find a way to blame Trump for the California fires, no matter how convoluted. It is only a matter of time before he gets tabbed for the sinking of the Titanic, the Lincoln assassination, and the 1906 San Francisco earthquake. Thank you very much. Yes, it doesn't come as a surprise. It actually, the only surprise is it took so long for them to start pointing fingers at Trump. Okay, a different comment. Would it really be better to pick cabinet members by checking DEI boxes like the last administration? Also, if we just send illegal migrants back across the border, we would not need to have detention centers or waste taxpayer money. And that's in reference to Mayorkas fighting against the Lake and Riley Act. So the Senate GOP tees up the confirmation hearing blitz in an effort to meet ambitious Trump targets. Yes, he has some very ambitious targets. Republicans will hold confirmation hearings this week for more than a dozen high-profile administration picks, including those for Pete Hegseth, Senator Marco Rubio, and Governor Kristi Noem. Hegseth, Trump's Secretary of Defense pick, will have one of the first hearings. That is tomorrow. Then when he will go before the Senate Armed Services Committee at 9:30 in the morning and face questions from both Democrats and Republicans. Rubio and Noem were tapped by Trump to be his Secretaries of State and Homeland Security, respectively. Noem will appear before the Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs on Wednesday at 9 a.m., while Rubio is set to face the Senate Committee on Foreign Relations at 10 a.m. Other Tuesday hearings include those for Doug Collins to serve as the Secretary of Veteran Affairs and former North Dakota Governor Doug Burgum for Secretary of Interior. Trump also chose Pam Bondi for Attorney General, John Ratcliffe to direct the CIA, Russell Vought to lead the Office of Management and Budget, Sean Duffy for Secretary of Transportation, and Chris Wright to be Secretary of Energy. Hearings for each of them will be on Wednesday. The hearing blitz comes as Republicans prepare to confirm as many of Trump's nominees as they possibly can and as quickly as they can. Senator Rand Paul explained his hope to confirm his choices promptly. In the past, the minority party has not obstructed at least a handful of high-ranking cabinet members to be approved in the first week, so I'm hopeful that Secretary of State as well as Department of Homeland Security will be approved either on the day of the inauguration, the day after, or that week, as well as a few others. Department of Defense. This again, Rand Paul. So I'm hoping we get to it quickly and that we don't muddle it around. And I still have my fingers crossed that this is going to happen. As far as the two that I've been in charge of, I've seen no resistance on the Republican side and some indication that we may get some Democrat support as well. Republicans are particularly motivated to confirm Trump's national security team, especially in the wake of the recent terror attack in New Orleans, in which 14 were killed and 35 people were injured. Democrat Senator Mark Kelly, now it's rumored, it's speculated anyway, that is who Barack Obama actually wanted to run for president, but that Joe Biden nominated Harris quickly. But Senator Mark Kelly out of Arizona was on Face the Nation talking about Pete Hegseth, and that's going to be a challenging one for Trump to get approve on. Some have said that confirmation would be like, as I mentioned, Brett Kavanaugh on steroids. Senator Kelly said that Pete Hegseth, quote, just does not seem to have the qualifications for that appointment. Let me start by saying there is not a job that's more serious and more critical to our national security than Secretary of Defense. And we need a qualified individual in that job. And he just does not seem to have the qualifications. I think it's interesting because to Washington, qualifications just mean you've had to be essentially a bureaucrat, a nameless, faceless bureaucrat for decades. And then you are, quote unquote, qualified. But as you know, Donald Trump running on the fact that he's going to do things differently. It's not going to be Washington's usual way of doing it. But continuing with what Kelly had to say, and then on top of that, you look at his personal conduct, especially when he was managing Veterans for Freedom and Concerned Veterans of America. These two organizations were financially mismanaged. The reports of being intoxicated at the job and creating an environment, where there was, some issues with, sexual harassment. So I think it's in the nominee, Mr. Hegseth's best interest, if he wants to be confirmed for this job, for us to have all the information. The information from these organizations, but also the FBI background check. Right now, as you say, the chairman and the ranking members are going to get it. That's an agreement with the White House. But there's been exceptions made in the past for certain nominees. This clearly, because it is bipartisan, like across the aisle, folks want to see the FBI background check. I think we should get an opportunity to take a look at it. So they asked, are you saying no information has been shared? And Kelly said yes. Do you think you'll receive any before Tuesday? Well, not knowing. We will have an opportunity, I'll talk to the ranking member, and I also talk to the chairman about his nomination in general. Mauricio, the discussion I had with Roger Wicker was about just meeting with Mr. Hegseth. We've reached out to him multiple times, have not been able to schedule a meeting in my office, and he's not meeting with any other Democrats on the committee other than ranking members. More information is better. If he wants to be confirmed to the job, I think it's in the best interest to have everything put on the table. All right, we're going to talk about none other than Greenland, everybody's favorite topic. When we come back, a couple things here about Greenland, a few things here about Trump in general, maybe a little bit here about the Biden administration, if we get a chance. So stay with us. We'll be right back, frankly speaking, here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Stay with us.
Are you or someone you love at risk of falling in the home? Did you know 80% of home falls happen in the bathroom? If you are still stepping over a tub to take a shower, please call Bath Planet for a free design service. Our certified design team will take all the measurements and work with you to design a bathroom that never has to sacrifice style for safety. Go with the company that people trust. Bath Planet, 2 locations serving the entirety of the Twin Tiers. Call today.
The Fox website is here now. WYDCTV.com. Local and national news that keeps you informed and involved. WYDCTV.com. Today's weather, up to date and in your town. WYDCTV.com. Sports news, local events, and health stories that affect you. WYDCTV.com. The Big Fox website. Your news here now. WYDCTV.com.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. I've watched Karen Bass live many times lately. It's apparent she doesn't know what she is talking about and hands the mic to everyone else. I noticed that she just does not look like she is prepared to be the mayor of LA, and she did not expect the backlash that she has received, and rightfully so received, from being away, being in Africa at the time of the beginnings of the wildfire. So let's talk about Greenland, shall we? Danish leaders have sent private messages to President-elect Donald Trump's team in recent days in a bid to pacify his ambitions to take over Greenland. Copenhagen is allegedly open to allowing U.S. military presence on the island to boost security and to appease Trump, who claimed military coercion could be deployed to bring Greenland under U.S. rule. The Danish government, which is responsible for Greenland's defense, wants to avoid clashing with the U.S. and hopes to assure Trump that Greenland will be safe from Russia and China without the need for American annexation, the sources are reporting. Copenhagen has also asked Trump's team to clarify the incoming president's comments after he shocked the world by suggesting that the U.S. could invade the long-standing NATO ally. One European diplomat told Axios that Denmark was widely seen as America's closest ally in the European Union and that no one could have imagined it'd be the first Trump would pick a fight with. Greenland has been a colony of Denmark since the 18th century and became a self-governing Danish territory in 1953. At a press conference Friday in Denmark, the Prime Minister said he was open to discussing Greenland's future with Trump, but warned that his people had no interest in becoming Americans. We are ready to talk. Cooperation is about dialogue. Cooperation means that we will work towards solutions. Now, Mark Toth and Jonathan Sweet have a good point on this, and a point that we've made on this program numerous times is that Trump's Greenland push is about the growing China threat, and the media is completely missing that message. President-elect Trump's answer to an "I gotcha" question is capturing all the headlines. His refusal to rule out military force in the Panama Canal, but many in the media are missing its intended messaging. Trump and his incoming national security team are putting Chinese President Xi Jinping on notice. They're essentially telling him and the rest of the world, we see what Beijing is aiming to economically and militarily achieve in the Western Hemisphere. Canada, Greenland, and Panama Canal, and even the Drake Passage at the end of the world are all interconnected. China is their common denominator. This isn't about U.S. military conquest of old. Rather, it's solely about telling Xi Jinping, hands off. It is a 21st century version of the Monroe Doctrine. And it's coming at a time when China is increasingly asserting itself on the global stage. Beijing is working to strangle economically and militarily U.S. maritime and naval sea routes by controlling key choke points and naval transit routes. Trump's second term was always going to be more China-centric. Xi's rapidly expanding People's Liberation Army will be a principal driving factor when his administration rewrites the national security strategy as mandated by the Goldwater-Nichols Department of Defense Reorganization Act of 1986. As is custom, Trump is arguing the case against Beijing in largely economic terms. However, the impetus for his argument is primarily driven by China and its dual-track approach to building a global military projection force. The key word is dual. China's $1 trillion and growing Belt and Road Initiative is economic and construct. Is also alarming modern-day Trojan horse that is building the infrastructure that will house an increasingly potent global Chinese military presence. So what this all boils down to, because I don't want to run too late here, is it was always about China, and the media has overlooked that. We only need to consider Xi Jinping. China is challenging us on our own turf. Do we have the determined resolve as a nation to confront them? They ask. All right, we got to take another short break, wrap up this morning's edition of Frankly Speaking. So get those last minute comments in, because we have just a couple other. Did you see that Trump was trolling Harris? Donald Trump trolled Vice President Kamala Harris on Sunday by posting an online parody conversation based on that viral video of Trump and Obama chatting. So it was a mock conversation that he shared, where Trump jokingly filled in the gaps when he posted a parody video on Truth Social with fake audio dubbed over, with Obama saying, "I knew you'd win." Oh, really? Come on. Anyone could beat her, Trump replied. The fake audio behind Obama also said he did what he could to help Harris, but that she was horrendous. The spoof video Trump shared Sunday also showed Harris walking in the funeral with her husband, Doug Emhoff, and sitting down in front of Obama and Trump while the two presidents with the fake audio needed her again behind the back. You know what I realized? Hillary still hates me so much, the dub Trump said. She'll never forgive me. Leave it to Trump to always try to fan the flames. All right, keep your last-minute comments coming in, and we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox, stay with us.
Have you been unable to work for over a year due to a mental or physical disability?
Were you recently denied Social Security disability benefits? Great news. You may be eligible for money, back pay, relief.
If you've been pre-qualified and diagnosed with a recognized condition that prohibits you from working, our lawyers can file a claim to get your disability benefit.
Call us today and find out more.
Call now, 844-617-0440.
Heather and I had an argument just like any other couple. I was lost and lonely. I had snapped, I had a gun, and I was going to take my own life. Heather helped me realize that there was still life to live. For the better of myself, my family, my weapon is now safely put away.
My son, Ricky, took his life by the use of a firearm. It broke me in ways that I never knew that I could be broken. And I contemplated suicide. Afterwards, we found out his girlfriend, she was pregnant. If that was my grandson, I was gonna have to be here for him. I still own my firearm. I keep it in a safe because I want to keep my grandson and myself safe.
A moment of crisis can happen to anyone.
Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammo.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Just wrapping up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Oh, got a last-minute wave in there. Thank you very much. Let's get to the right camera. Oops, wrong one. So Trump wants to end the daylight savings time, the biannual clock change. It's been done before, they said here. President-elect Donald Trump wants to end daylight savings time, the twice-yearly clock changing, and have one time year-round called DST. Inconvenient. He called DST inconvenient and very costly to our nation. So Senator Rick Scott on January the 8th introduced the Bipartisan Sunshine Protection Act to make that happen. Quote, I hear from Americans constantly that they are sick and tired of changing their clocks twice a year. It's unnecessary, decades-old practice. It's more of an annoyance to families than benefit to them, Scott said. It's a common sense change that will simplify and benefit the lives of American families. We don't need to go through the whole history of this. So we will see if this goes forward, as Trump has signaled that he wants to see it go forward. Michael Goodwin has a piece at the New York Post saying a glance across America and Europe leads to an unmistakable conclusion. Revolution is in the air. The failures of democracies are sparking internal upheavals. Thankfully, spasms of violence and bloodshed are few, but a toxic brew of overbearing governments, shrinking freedoms, and undeniable decline is producing demand for big changes. This again, Michael Goodwin. A common thread from California to Great Britain, France, and Germany is that liberal underpinnings have morphed into sloppy socialism, unchecked immigration, cultural clashes, and restraints on critical speech. Collectively, the conservative blowback reveals that the time allotted for an indulgent detour has expired, and a new consensus is taking shape, whether entrenched leftists like it or not. You can thank Donald Trump and the 77 million Americans who elected him for this development, or blame them if you're on the losing side of his remarkable moment. Either way, Trump is, with apologies to Reggie Jackson, the straw that stirs the drink. So his thoughts, Michael Goodwin, that the world has now seen the Trump effect on full display. It says here, Trump could have skipped the theater. This was about Judge McCann, but chose to appear by video. He declared his innocence and summarized the big picture beautifully. Quote, the people of our country got to see this firsthand, and then they voted, and I won. All 7 swing states and won the popular vote. He might have added, take that, New York. Boy, we are out of time. Oh, man, Don Lemon is upset. Don Lemon is outraged that Obama had a conversation with Trump at Carter's funeral. I can't use the language that he used. Lemon took aim at Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski as well. so launching into a profanity-laced rant against MSNBC's Morning Joe and Obama for cozying up to Trump. Again, I can't use the language that he used on the air. Yeah, he said some pretty nasty things. So some people upset. Oh, J.D. Vance said that Biden has left the incoming administration a dumpster fire. I wish Joe Biden all the best, but the fact that he has left us a dumpster fire, not just at the border, but also with the economy. First of all, we know that prices are way too high for many Americans. We have to work every single day to stabilize prices for American families. Everything he's bragging about ignores the fact that he is adding trillions and trillions of dollars to the federal debt. During a time of peace, he has left us with bond yields, meaning how are we going to finance that debt? We have to sell Treasury bonds, and the Treasury bonds got more expensive because of Joe Biden's policies. You've got issue after issue, and oil prices are shooting through the roof. In the final 2 months of Joe Biden's administration is part because of decisions Joe Biden has made over the last few weeks. He actually hasn't left the American people in good economic condition. That's why many voted for Donald Trump. I remain fundamentally, and you know this, I will always be an optimist about our country, but I think that optimism has to start with a bit of realism, and the real truth is that Joe Biden has left us a dumpster fire. Donald Trump will have to put it out, but he's good at that. All right, that is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Now, Jake Sullivan said, National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said that after Biden, our alliances, do you believe with this? Our alliances are stronger and our enemies are weaker. That is it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Have a great day, everyone. We will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV. Big Fox, have a great day, and we will see you tomorrow morning, bright and early. Look forward to it already.
Are you ready for winter in New York State? Ready for thrills like this? Discoveries like this? Views like this? Are you ready to make memories? Plan the perfect trip or have an impromptu getaway. It's time to explore everything that makes New York easy to love. Discover more at iloveny.com.